call our Tuesday, May 13, 2025 meeting of the Edenton Town Council to order. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me in reciting that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Elton Bond has let us know he's gotten detained out of town, and he normally provides our invocation. And I'm not going to surprise any of our council members with asking them to do it at the last minute like that, but I will lead us in invocation if you would pray with me. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight to vote on matters that are important to all of us here in Edenton. Thank you for providing us such a wonderful town and a wonderful citizenry that's involved and active and lets us know what we need to know as we make our decisions. Help us be all of one mindset tonight as we move forward and vote on matters. And in the event we're not all of one mindset, please allow us to have your spirit of comfort and peace and disagree agreeably. It's in your name we pray. Amen. The first item that we have is an action item, and that's the approval of the minutes. Council, you have been provided the minutes from the February 24th, April 8th, April 28th, regular meeting, and also the closed session. Is there any requests for corrections to any of those minutes? There being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Is that a second? Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we have approved those minutes. Next, we have public comment, and we would invite any persons to come forward as I call your name. I think Manager Gooden is stepping outside to get the list of people who have signed up. For those of you who may not be aware of this, we do limit public comments to 3 minutes per speaker. Okay, we've got Pat Grother. Pat?
Tonight I am asking about the crosswalks on Broad Street. I thought we were going to get more than just one. They really are needed. And also, I'm asking about the company called Motorboat. They are bringing in personal watercraft and other types of boats to use out on the sound. And I'd like to know if there will be no wake zones. And is there any way of regulating and keeping them from going too close to other boats? I know we've got a huge water area out here. And jet skiers really like to go close and spray whomever is in the boat. So will there be anything to track their decibels so that we're not hearing this awful sound all the time? Also, will there be a training for anyone who is new to them to let them know how to handle them? And will there be an age limit? Some places regulate them to 16 years and up, or they have to have a driver's license. I don't know, they're not staggering out here. I don't think the company is putting them out here. I thought they were going to be up in the marina on West Queen Street. And will there be a rescue available if necessary? Because people do fall off them. You can get terribly hurt from them. People have been known to fall behind them and be physically injured from the rollback from the jet. That's it.
Thank you, Pat. And Pat, you're thankfully a regular attendee. We always enjoy seeing you here. And as you know, if we can respond here quickly, we respond here quickly. This is going to require a little bit of research. We'll have Mr. Gooden report back to you at our next meeting. Any of those can be responded to quickly as it relates to the crosswalk.
We are still trying to finalize some of the plans with DOT. That was a big portion of the manager's report. And tonight, in the last conversation, I actually spoke to them today. We're trying to see if we can get the final draft of what markings are as well as the final crosswalks. One of the things that we can share about the crosswalks is the intersections with the stoplights is a standalone project, and we talked about the actual push buttons, the crosswalks being added correctly. So if you think about some of those intersections, I think there's 4 total that we've had conversations with them that they are actively planning to do once the paving is complete. But that's a
where
whole,
the softball side.
yes.
What about beyond that, up to Virginia Road? That's a long distance, and I know people need to have crosswalks, there's one.
We'll have to see if that's something that can be done as part of the striping, or if that's something that's going to be just going to require any type of lighting to acknowledge the pedestrians are crossing. And we'll just have to figure out, is it a lighting project or is it a paving project? So we'll follow the DOT to see that. I didn't get advice on what we need around the stoplight areas.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Next, we have Lori Davlo. Lori?
Thank you. I didn't know we were going to have such great company tonight with the Boy Scouts troop here. So I've edited my comments just a little bit in light of that. If I ask for a show of hands here tonight about how many people consider Edenton or Chelan County their home, I'm guessing a whole lot of people would probably raise their hands, wouldn't they? What happens in our home, good, bad, or indifferent, affects all of us. Which is why the local newspapers and social media and friends and neighbors and others are still talking about the shocking events on May 4th at the True Line. I think Chief LaFawn's instincts about coordinating a community meeting that provided a kind of triage experience for a lot of people was just right spot on. It's great. But you know, in hindsight, we really shouldn't have been so surprised by the presence of crime tape around our little food line and all those police cars with their lights on. If you paid attention to a Wavy report, Wavy News report that came out August 24th, 2024, the findings of the violent crime plan and that multi-agency group that has been working together with our local law enforcement, there was a lot there to suggest that this is coming down the pike. I know we were all greatly relieved that the 60 plus people inside the food line and that the 30 plus people out in the parking lot were not physically harmed. But I don't think they'll ever really be the same again after coming so close to such harsh reality of crime in our home. And my hope is that we're sufficiently convinced now that there really is a serious problem. That we don't need for something even more tragic to happen in order to motivate us to take a look at the root causes of crime in Edenton and to figure out the tough question of why is this area such fertile ground for gang recruitment. The EPD and the multi-agency collaboration are doing a great job of law enforcement, but they can't be expected to solve the whole problem of crime. If we want to live and work and gather in a safe home that we all love and enjoy, it's clear that crime prevention needs to become our top priority. So I'm looking forward tonight to hearing how our town government plans to direct additional resources and time and money for the question of how to prevent crime by addressing its root causes in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. We next move to our special presentations. The first presentation is on behalf of the Boy Scouts of America Cub Scout Pack and Troop 164. We've got Chris Nagel and Sheriff Edward Scooter Bassnight here. If you'll come forward at this time, we would love to see you guys and hear from you.
So, don't really have much prepared. I'm Chris Nagel. I'm the Cub Master of the Cub Scout Pack. I have the youth from grades K through 5 that represent Scouting America. This year, we are sponsored by the American Legion Post 40. It's our charter organization. We have 11 youth that are active in our pack right now. Always looking for additional youth to enjoy the program as well. This year we've gone camping twice on weekends, once up to the Pipsico Scout Reservation in Virginia and once down to Camp Bonner in Washington, North Carolina. We had our favorite event, which was our annual Pinewood Derby, where our Cub Scouts built and raced cars against one another. And we had several Cub Scouts that advanced on to the district competition and one that even went to the council competition in Virginia Beach. We participated for the first year in many years in the Scouting Food Drive. We went door to door downtown, distributing bags, and then we collected food to support the local food pantry. We collected 464 pounds of food for the needy this year. In addition, we've been hiking, we've been in the outdoors. We had one special field trip down to the ECU Health Bertie Hospital, where they got to tour one of the East Care helicopters. We have one scout he was not able to be here tonight with us, but he will be advancing on to our Scouts BSA troop with Sheriff Bass Night next year. He'll be crossing over hopefully at the Scout Night at the Edenton Steamers. And then we have several more that will be advancing up to start working towards their Arrow of Light culminating award in Cub Scouting next year. Thank you.
Just a question, do you still have the white ones? Is that still an active?
Yes, sir. So currently, actually I have several Cub Scouts that are We Loyal Scouts, or We Be Loyal Scout. That's the 4th grade program currently. It used to be a 2-year program, now it's just for 4th grade, and they've separated out the Arrow of Light Award to be its own rank for our 5th grade Cub Scouts.
Good evening. Tonight I get to come before y'all wearing a different hat. Truly an honor to be a Scoutmaster at this troop. This is a troop that when I was a young boy I was a member of, and made it up to Life Scout before life got in the way and I found other interests. At this point right now I'm sitting with 4 Boy Scouts that are age 15, one is 16, that are currently Life Scouts. Life Scout is the next rank after Life is Eagle. So I have 4 boys that are in process right now of working on their Eagle projects. They started last night with their workbooks. Through this summer, hopefully before Christmas, they have 6 months before they're eligible. So they're working hard. I have 2 that just came up this past summer that are already have achieved 2nd class rank, working on 1st class. So in Boy Scouts you have Scout, Tenderfoot, 2nd class, 1st class, Star, Life, and Eagle. So these boys are advancing really quick. They're gaining merit badges. We've been to summer camp. Each year we've gone from Camp Bonner up in near Canton. The last 2 years we've gone to Camp Ravennob up near Mount Airy. The boys get to experience some mountains. Some of these young boys, first time they've been outside of Eden. And so luckily we have a great Cub Scout troop that's feeding us great future young men that are prepared. What are we doing as Scouts? We prepare great citizens. It's one thing to sit there and go through life and go through school and just be a person here. But it takes a special person to understand what it means to be a citizen. In Scouts, you have several of your merit badges that are focused on becoming a good citizen. You have citizenship in the community, citizenship in society, citizenship in the nation, citizenship in the world. These are not easily given, they're hard to earn. But we pride ourselves on the young men we're putting out. I also have a gentleman sitting in the back here, Mr. Robert, who has transferred out. He's transferred back to us now, and we're really working hard because Robert is almost at the point he's about to age out. So in Boy Scouts, you have to hit that Eagle rank before you turn 18 years of age. And we're really pushing it. We appreciate y'all's an opportunity to be here tonight to talk to you a little bit about Scouts. There's so much that it's hard to cover everything that we try to do with these young men. But we try to lead by an example and show them people like you, yourselves, who have stepped up to take care of our communities. And we try to exhibit that and get them to as many places as we can to show them this is what a good citizen is. This is the people you want to earmark yourself after. To be like, not all the baseball players or football players, boxers, whatever you want to, but men and women that want to step up and do something for their community and make it. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank all of you scouts that are here tonight. Thank you for being here with us. We're very proud of you guys.
Mayor, would, Sheriff Basslight,
Yes,
if you
sir.
would step back up. I know it's not the whole crew,
Yes, sir.
but we do appreciate these people being here. Could you recognize them by name? With the
These are our Cub Scout troops. I'm not familiar with that many of them. All my boys, older boys, are just finished up football practice. They're too sweaty to want to come back.
Well, we just got asked about what we can do to make a difference in the youth growing up. And this is a perfect example. And these people taking the opportunity to be here, I think they should be recognized.
Yes.
So, since they are mine, and actually to come back to your question, Councilman, so one of the requirements for the citizenship adventure that they have to do each year, for our Weeblo Scouts, they have to meet with an elected official. And when I was asked to speak here tonight, I thought what better way than to meet all of the elected officials. So, but right here, I have Mr. Jace Bridget. He's one of my Weeblo Scouts. I have Evan here. He is a Bear Scout. I've got Corey Jack. He's a Bear Scout. So they're in 3rd grade. I've got Mr. Ben here. He's my Tiger Scout. He's in 1st grade. And I've got Mr. Connor, Ms. Madison, and Mr. Fred back here. Those are 3 of my Weeblo Scouts.
Right.
We were asked this year by our chartered organization, we are now a family pack. Scouting America has expanded to permit females in all of our programs. And so this program does allow young women in as well as young men. So
How does the young lady like being with all these guys? Is that working out pretty good?
it's working just fine.
Good.
I promise you that young lady right there she can hold her own.
Well, thank you all again. We really appreciate it. Let's give them a round of applause. Our next special presentation, is from the Edenton Chamber of Commerce, Edenton Chowan Chamber of Commerce, and we've got Executive Director Susan Creed with us tonight. Susan, good evening.
Good evening. Always a pleasure to present to the town council. Tammy, you got it? Okay, so the Edenton Chowan Chamber of Commerce is a 501c6 nonprofit organization, which means we are a membership organization. I am the one full-time employee with some administrative support from Megan Weiss, who doubles as your public information officer. We have approximately 230 memberships, and it's always approximate because it's an ever-changing number. It ebbs and flows with new members coming on, but we also have members that drop out. In 2024, we had 21 new members, which was down slightly from the previous 2 years where we had 30 and change. However, this year in our first quarter, we gained 10 new members, and we've had a couple since then. So we're on track to get that number back up. That is critical because 1/3 of our funding comes from our memberships. And so we're always trying to recruit and retain our members. The rest comes from our fundraisers, primarily Shrimp Buffet and our golf tournament. And then, of course, the $10,000 allocation from the town of Edenton, which is very much appreciated. We are already starting to see the impact of this wishy-washy economy with the tariffs and the uncertainty of what's coming and what's happening. Businesses are feeling those impacts and they're telling us about it. We just last week had a very successful golf tournament, but it was challenging because our sponsorships were down. The larger sponsorships either dropped or dropped out completely. So we were able to scrap our way back through some creative fundraising and come within $2,000 of last year, which was an exceptional fundraising event for us, but it is already starting to make an impact. Our current chamber leadership, Bonnie Bond with Sykes and Company is our president, Valerie Goodwin with Fallon's Jewelry is our president-elect. Our internal vice president is Courtney Hobbs with Donna Winborn, and our external vice president is Claire Evans with Perry and Company. And then you can see there the picture from our banquet, several of our other board members. Our focus areas continue to be primarily working with our workforce development. This was something that when I started in 2021 was a real focus because of the impact of COVID on our workforce. We have continued to put our focus through the schools, hitting our students at every grade level with what it looks like to have a job, what are the career opportunities, and even some incentives. So the Chamber awards 2 scholarships every year to graduating seniors who live in Chowan County. The schools and the way things are shaped now has changed so much certainly since I was in school, but even since Aaron was in school, with charter schools and private schools and so homeschool and so many opportunities. So we did change the requirements on that slightly. So as long as the student lives in Chowan County and is graduating and going somewhere else to further their education, they have a connection to the chamber, they are qualified. The incentive is that we are looking primarily for the student who has a plan to come back to this community with their career. And so our scholarship is a little different than a lot of them because that is the focus. I'm also involved with the carpentry focus group that the school system is doing with their CTE program. And Tammy Ward, our superintendent, is leading that, and it's the first of the focus groups where we are working to build that pipeline directly from the high school into the local workforce. And it's a great group that involves several builders and carpenters in the community, boat builders as well. So really excited about the work that's being done there. Just last month, we had our vehicle day and career day at White Oak and D.F. Walker Elementary Schools, and several of the town departments were there at both of them. And I just so appreciate the partnership that we have with the town and the willingness of our department heads to come out and support our efforts with these young students. With networking, we have had several really big, successful open houses and ribbon cuttings. One of those is Lori Dublo's Edenton Tea Company, had a great turnout. And that's been since the beginning of the year. The businesses are having them in the evenings, so more people can come in a lot of cases, and it's a great opportunity for businesses to network. We also had a really cool event on the Albemarle Point with Harbor Town, so we were able to have lunch in the snow in January, but it ended up being a fun event and a good experience, and some of you were there, and I appreciate that. Moving down to recruitment and retention of our members, as I said, this is a critical piece for us, and this year this summer we will have a retention blitz in partnership with Jimbo, so there may be a peanut or two involved. And then with the information and hospitality, this is something that is daily, and Megan gets a lot of this when the phone rings. We're always getting questions from, is this business still open? Who owns, last week I had a call of who owns the JC building. Anybody, I don't have a clue. Where everybody's Google. We have regulars who call us to look up phone numbers for them. I really want to just sit them down and have a class with them. We're the clearinghouse for dates for a lot of nonprofits that are, and other organizations that are having events, and we maintain the community calendar. I also send a weekly e-newsletter, which I hope you guys are reading, because you should all be getting that, and it's got the dates for all of the community events that we're told about, as well as information from our members. As far as what we're doing to give back to the community and to our members, we host our annual awards banquet with the Business and Community Awards. As I mentioned, this year it was at the airport, which ended up being a really cool space. The Edenton Steamers, our board always volunteers for at least one night there. We host Ladies' Night, which ladies in the room is coming up June 16th. All the ladies get in free, and we have door prizes that our small businesses donate. We also volunteer at the county fair every year. And the biggest labor of love for the community is the Christmas parade. That is a beast. And we miss Bob Turner helping us wrangle folks in that. That was always his favorite, I believe. And then, of course, we collaborate with our community partners. And moving into our town hall office spaces on the second floor has allowed us to really work more closely together with the town and Main Street. Tourism, economic development, but we're also doing a lot with the school systems, and I can't say enough good things about Tammy Ward and the way that she is integrating into the community. So just some of our other community partners are on here as well, and that sums it up. Do I have any questions?
Susan, let everyone know about recent efforts that you assisted in to try to recruit qualified teachers to our school system. Didn't you take a trip?
I did. Yes, thank you. So Tammy Ward, the superintendent, asked me to go to Philadelphia. I thought I was going to Philadelphia. My husband was surprised when he looked at my location. I was in Lancaster. I was too. To a teacher recruitment fair. So there are 300 school systems. So Dr. Rawls, the assistant superintendent, as well as the two teaching coaches, one from the high school, one from the elementary school, and I were there. My job was to talk about the community, but what my job ended up being was being the hook. 1,000 students come walking in, there are 300 school systems set up in rows, and they're just like walking towards you, and everybody's standing behind the table because they're teachers. And so I stepped out and said, hey, you want to come to North Carolina? We're an hour from the Outer Banks, because nobody's ever heard of Edenton. And so we would get their interest that way, and they'd come over and talk to us. And we interviewed 10 student or graduating teachers right there on the spot that afternoon. So it was a great experience. I'm not sure we've got anybody coming from Pennsylvania, but they know we're here now. Yeah.
Well, one comment I would like to make, Susan, is to compliment you and also Tammy Ward, our relatively new superintendent. I am seeing a level of cooperation and collaboration between the chamber and the school system that, quite frankly, I've never seen in my 30-some years here. So I really appreciate that, and Tammy and Susan are buying into this whole thought, which I wholeheartedly believe in, that strong community makes for strong schools, and strong schools make for a strong community. So I appreciate you taking that cooperation and collaboration to a very high level, and hope it continues.
Thank you, Mayor, appreciate that.
I can't, I know we all see everything Susan does, and I was a board member with Susan, but everything she does is organized. It is first class when you go to her events, and I think we all appreciate that. And then you deal with a different board every year, so that's not easy to kind of reel them in and do it do it your way a little bit. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, Bobby.
And thank you for never dropping the ball. I mean, like,
Yeah.
somebody calls you, you call them back. I mean, somebody asks you something, you have an answer, and we just all really appreciate that.
Good.
Yeah, to follow up on what Councilman Dixon said, I contacted you around 9:30, I think, on a Thursday night. You got back to me immediately. As far as the growth, do you think that's because we've had so much growth recently that maybe there was a drop off this year because we have less new businesses, or?
So we're seeing an uptick, and some of that is new businesses. One of my newest members is presenting next. And so we're excited to see some of these new activities and new businesses coming to town. Just this week, Carosa joined the chamber as Joe and Stephanie's second business to be a member. So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the uptick that we're seeing. There's some that are dropping off because of finances, which is, I certainly understand the membership of the chamber is not their number one priority. And we, try to do what we can to support them through the challenging times.
Susan, what's the benefit of being in the President's Club and being a regular member? What's the benefit?
So the President's Club gives you just a few more benefits as well as more exposure. Probably the most visible is that they are listed in the newsletter that goes out to over 600 people every week. They're invited to some exclusive events like the lunch on the Alcohol Queen. We try to have a couple of exclusive events for them a year that is more than just a networking after hours kind of thing.
For the small upcharge, the exposure is well worth it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
well worth it.
We have about 50% of our members are in the President's Club
Oh,
now,
that's
so
great.
I think it's
Wow.
catching up.
Used to be what?
It was about 20 people, 20 businesses when I started, but
Okay.
there weren't real defined benefits. And just adding to that newsletter, the numbers started going. People were contacting me saying, how can I join? So people like to see their names.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
One thing, Mayor, before we go, I'm very excited we're working with Susan this year. I don't think that the workforce development piece gets shared enough. We're very excited to partner with Main Street Chamber and the school system under new leadership in Ms. Ward, Superintendent Ward, for the ACE Academy, which will be geared towards workforce development at the airport, to start getting some exposure there for that industry as well. And that's going to be a first for us.
And that's next month for
Yes,
us. You gotta
next month.
Thank you, Susan. Our last special presentation, Susan alluded to this in her comments there towards the end. We've got Thomas Davis of T&A Charters Business, and he is going to make a presentation to us on a proposed business that he may want to bring to our town. So thank you for being here.
Mayor, City Councilman, Town Manager, Chief, thank you for allowing my wife and I to be here today and talk about our business. My wife's name is Angela Davis. She's the brains of this operation. The only thing I do is operate the boat, the vessel. We have started T&A Charters LLC, which consists of sunset cruises, sightseeing cruises, and special event cruises by request. We're local to the area. We live in Roper, North Carolina. I'm a retired Master Sergeant, and Angela has been in the retail business for the past 27 years. We both love being on the water and feel offshore business will allow others to experience the water of this beautiful waterfront in our vessel. We own a 24-foot Avalon Catalina Tri-Tune, which is powered by American 250 horsepower. It is Coast Guard approved for 15 packs. At the present time, we will only be conducting cruises for 6 paying guests. Prior to these cruises, our vessel will be inspected by the Auxiliary Coast Guard Inspector, Mr. Alan Fred, which I've made contact with him, and he's waiting on the final documentations that I need for our vessel. At the present time, my OUPD 6-pack license is in the final stages of being issued. I get updated regular on the stages of where the process is. I'll also be acquiring the necessary upgraded license at the end of the year that will allow full capacity aboard our vessel. At December 1st, I'll be obtaining my upgraded license to operate a 100-ton vessel. So we're expecting after this year and next year, hopefully get a bigger vessel to help our business in the town of Edenton. We'll have the necessary coverage from out of insurance, boat waiver, required safety equipment per Coast Guard regulations. At this time, we would like to request a waterfront slip down here on Edenton Bay. Allow us to be available, posted, and requested times. Sightseeing cruises will start at 09 to 12 on Thursday through Saturday, 45 minutes each. Sunset cruises will start from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Thursday through Saturday. Those sunset cruises will be 90 minutes, unless we have a guest that would like to go back sooner. Special events cruises will be by appointment. All times are subject to change will depend on weather conditions. As y'all know, sometimes the water here can be a little rough and sometimes it can be glass. Advertisement will consist of business cards, sandwich boards, and brochures. Also, we would like to work with local businesses to get their feedback on this. We become members of the Edenton Chamber of Commerce, Edenton Connect for network opportunities. I believe it was Friday we requested permission to get on that site. I believe it was Saturday when we got authorization to be on it. Within an hour, we had 59 hits. Everything was positive. Lights, parks. People was asking, when can we book a reservation for this? I believe that this afternoon, I believe we had up to 195 hits on this. So we've had a lot of positive feedback. I've spoken to numerous business owners here in town and notified them this is what we got coming up, and we have got a lot of positive feedback on this. We have spoken wildlife. The other thing what we're doing is we have spoken with wildlife and fish conservationist Mr. Sam Pollock down the road here. And we're also reached out to the Boys and Girls Club for an outreach program. We spoke to them I spoke with the Boys and Girls Club. Once a month, we're planning on donating a vessel ride for the Boys and Girls Club to come on board. A fish and wildlife representative will come on board and they will give them class about the ecosystem, the birds, the fish, how important it is to keep our waterways safe, and how important it is just to go out there and enjoy it. If we can reach one child, just one, maybe we can save a Coke bottle or save a bird from drowning from some plastic bag. That's what our intentions are. As you see here, this is our vessel. There's a 24-foot tri-tune. The tri-tune is not like a pontoon. This right here, when you get on it, it's just like riding in a vehicle. It's a very smooth wave. I've been out on the chop out here, it's very smooth. Do you have another slide here? Another angle to it? Okay, next slide. Okay. These are different slides. We also would be pet friendly. Our insurance we will have capabilities to, you can bring a wine and beer, but with limitations. We're going to limit the wine to 1 bottle. The beer limited to a 6-pack. there would be no liquor involved on this boat whatsoever. Well, we've got approval from the insurance company to allow that to happen. If you're intoxicated prior to getting on our vessel, you will not get on our vessel. This is mainly just to go out and enjoy yourself. The guests can go out and have a pleasurable experience. Let me do the driving on the vessel and let them just sightsee. Take your family out. There's going to be, we're mainly going to be for a family-oriented cruise. I understand from the young lady was up here earlier, was talking about the jet skis. Our vessel will the max speed it will go is 8 miles an hour. Obviously, with 250 horsepower, we can go a lot faster. But I want the guests to get on there. We want them to come back. We want them to contact their family members, their friends. Y'all really need to check out TNA. Our vessel will be strictly for Edenton, North Carolina. It won't go to Elizabeth City. It won't go to Plymouth. That vessel will be here. During the summertime, we would like to keep it down here with town council permission and mayor's permission. We like to keep it down here in the waterfront. Intimate weather, then we pull it out, brought to my dock or my house in Beach Day where we live at. During the winter time, we're going to pull it out. It will not stay in the water. Only for the seasonal time. Okay. Is there another slide? As we mentioned, we're planning on doing outreach program for the Boys and Girls Club. In the event that we cannot get, say 1 month they can't do it, I'd like to reach out to the Boy Scouts and allow them to do it. All mandatory safety equipment we will have on hand. A child 13 below will wear a life vest. And adults, please. And we got some really nice life vests, so it ain't like big bulky orange ones. So when you go out there, you can get style. We got that. We made sure that, you know, that some people, they don't want to take a picture with the orange bulky ones. They want to somewhat have a nice life vest, so we did do that. All safety requirements will be taken. We've actually we exceeded the Coast Guard regulations. Like I said, Mr. Allen Friend has looked at our vessel recently. I'm just waiting for my credentials to come in the mail. Like I said, I got a 3-day class in the 1st of December. And once I get that, I can go ahead and send that up for my upgrading license. At that time, we are hoping to expand this business to be a 30-footer. This way we can have more guests in. Any of your questions?
Where do you plan, again, to dock this?
We would like to dock it down here beside Captain Mark's. Y'all might say, well, we have Captain Mark. I've taken a ride with Captain Mark. Captain Mark does a fabulous job on the inside deck. He has a lot of historical data. He blew my mind when we went out there. Very friendly guy. We're planning on talking a little about the historical, because you cannot take a cruise out here without talking about the importance of the Edenton Bay. Our plan is to go further out, obviously for 90 minutes.
Do you have a good working agreement with Captain Mark?
No, sir, I have not spoken to him,
Okay.
but my plan is to speak to him. But like I said, we're not going to get into the history lessons. We're going to talk briefly about Edenton Bay, the importance of the bark house, very little. We're going to talk about the Hayes Plantation. But mainly, after I give them a safety briefing and talk about that, we want our guests to just relax and have fun with their families.
So Mark typically is in the creeks in the inner bay,
Yes.
and you anticipate having a farther out, a wider geographical area
Right
that you
now,
can
our
serve?
longest cruise will be out to the bridge and back.
Sound Bridge?
Yes, sir. That's the longest cruise. Now, in the event we get a guest with, hey, we like to stay out further, we like to stay out longer, then we will take them out further. We've got different routes. We've been on the water quite a bit on chop out there in the glass. I think my wife tells me I should have fins. Like I said, I love the water. We have a 25-foot grade, and we love spending time in the water. But this Tri-Tune, anytime y'all would like to go out on it and take a ride with us, it's a very comfortable ride. It's a very safe ride.
How many in the vessel, how many can you put in the vessel?
This particular vessel, the max is 15. For my license is getting ready to come in, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, the max paying guest is 6. So if we get somebody and we just want to take a cruise, like, for example, the Boys and Girls Club, we can, I've asked them to, when they come on board, to have 2 adults with them, and then 1 for the fish and wildlife guys. So, and then we just distract that, and it'd be myself operating the vessel. I'll be the only one operating the vessel.
Were all business being taken care of down, you're saying down here at the dock?
Yes, sir. I would like that, sir, for the foot traffic. As y'all know better than I do, and the Chamber of Commerce can tell you, I never knew Edenton had this much tourism until in the last couple of years. Having our vessel there is really imperative to our business, but we want to do it with the utmost respect for the citizens here in Edenton, and also for the guests. It'll be maintained and everything like that. It'll be we want it to be the most pleasurable vessel ride you ever receive.
You can take reservations too?
Yes, we have a website, sir.
Okay.
We're working on a website now. We have a Facebook. Our webpage is www.ta-charters.com. That's our webpage. Our email, I believe, is t.a.chartersllc@gmail.com. In the pamphlet in front of you have all this information on it. That is our business phone number. If we get a call like this past weekend, we met with 3 separate businesses that we were just talking about, sort of trying to work with them on their vendors and everything. We had a few people from the Connect actually call us too and want to set up reservations. And I told them once I get my credentials and everything, then at that time we can do it. We have everything that we've done for our business, we have tried to do it in-house, meaning even. The attorney, matter of fact, I called Mr. Dixon's office, tried to get him to do her waiver, then I found out that he only does criminal. So then we went to, I think it's Height and Crown down here in the old days. They're actually doing our boat waiver. Our future was at Cambridge, down the street. They're actually doing our graphics. Now, custom swag, Ronnie has been a very, he is doing all our advertisements, our shirts, our business cards, our signs. So I wanted, me and my wife decided, when we decided to do this, we wanted everything to give back to the local businesses. Now, I believe when you do that, it comes back to you. It's all about taking care of our local community. And the biggest part of that is, again, the Boys and Girls Club. When I grew up, fortunately, I grew up in the water. When I was in the military, I done some really cool stuff in the water. And I had the opportunity, but a lot of kids don't have the opportunity. That's why we want to go back to the Boys and Girls Club. And eventually, if we have the time, the days we've set aside for that organization, which they know is going to be Monday through Wednesday. That's the days they can pick. As long as fish and wildlife conservationists, as long as they can do it, then we're going to meet everybody. As of right now, both parties are very excited about this endeavor, and me and my wife is extremely excited.
All right, Corey, you just need to get some general consensus from us to continue, if there's enough interest in you and Mr. Davis continuing to have conversations about this. Is that no action needed, just?
No action needed, that's correct, and just one point of clarification. So the request is not for marina slip itself, here at the harbor, it's for basically a designated area along the boardwalk area, not like storage of what we see for our transit boaters that travel here. So that's the request, and if there's a general consensus for this, we could start the leasing, drafting and making sure we've got a designated period, or designated space for that boat to dock with everything we have a lease that we can work good on. And as long as that's a 1 year or less lease, that's something we can handle internally. So if there's a consensus, and that's something that myself and Mr. Davis can work with.
And this wouldn't put us out of compliance with any agreement or lease with Captain Moore.
No.
All right, what do y'all, enough interest to continue looking into it?
Yes, very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. We next move to our committee meetings, and we have one agenda item for our administrative committee chaired by Councilman Craig Miller. Craig?
Thank you, Mayor. On the docket tonight is the mass balloon release ordinance. As previously discussed at our last council meeting, April 28th, the town staff have received a recommendation from you, from your task force on litter, recycling, and environment to draft a local mass balloon release ordinance, which the town staff did, and they shared with the rest of us here on the council. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to accept and approve the town staff's version of the mass balloon release ordinance.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We've got a motion and second. I know this has generated a lot of conversation. So before we vote on it, I would entertain any questions of staff, of Councilman Miller, or any comments.
Probably the number of balloons, what is considered mass. I think that was probably a big question we had last time.
And there was a motion and a second on the floor in discussion, but we could define what that is to not exceed that. Currently, as it reads, it starts at 1. And so that's something, if this passes, with that contingency added, we can go through that.
Are there any other comments or questions on it?
I think we need to,
We need numbers.
it's just one, I just feel like we need to probably maybe send it back and work on it some more.
And we can do that, we've seen 100 or more is really one of the numbers that has kind of appeared for
That's what I'm
the
seeing too.
general statute that we've seen proposed through the House.
Well, it came to us as a request for mass release, right?
Yes. Again,
What? So, isn't this something the state is discussing too? Or not?
Do you know where it's going to be doing somewhere?
same position as before, it's still in the queue, nothing has been finalized on that.
How's it written for them right now?
Mass,
One?
no, it was mass, and then there was a definition of multiple.
Is there any interest in seeing what, if the state actually passes a
Yes.
statute
Yeah.
that covers it? And then if they don't, and we have some interest in doing something,
Well, Councilman Dixon and I just learned in court last week that these town ordinances by statute must be enforced within 30 days. So if somebody was charged with violating this ordinance and they weren't brought to court within 30 days, it's tossed, it's dismissed. And so we have to consider that for other town ordinances that we find important. But as far as,
We can change that, that's a law.
that's a state statute. So if we enact a new ordinance and we charge someone with violating this, and let's say their court date is set for 2 weeks after, and they go to court and they say, I need a continuance to hire an attorney, they're gonna be granted that continuance, and it's gonna be for about a month. And then all of a sudden, they show up and they say, I want this dismissed. The court has no other option but to dismiss it by state statute. So
but if it's subject to a state statute, you don't have those same time
that's
limitations.
exactly right. So we could actually do more by not potentially enacting an ordinance. Not that I'm not for the mass release of balloons, and nobody is, but we could maybe do more by writing that letter in support of this new ordinance or taking some other action. And we spent a lot of time on this, and our town has spent a lot of time on this. But it is important to keep in mind that what would actually happen.
Yeah. So is there some interest in perhaps passing a resolution in support of the proposed state statute and passing that along, and then us just tapping the brakes and seeing what comes out of that? Is that?
That sounds good. Doesn't matter, but it's fine.
Okay.
You still have a motion and second.
Okay.
Well, we can,
Can somebody withdraw that motion? I don't want to,
Motion.
yeah, I don't want it to appear that we voted it down,
Yeah.
because I don't think that would be accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't have a second, did you?
We did have a motion and a
Okay,
second.
so we just, I got a motion.
Do we have to vote on his motion to withdraw? It's been a while since I've had a motion to withdraw.
I do not think so.
Okay.
All right.
We did that.
Okay, so, Corey, can you and staff start working on fine-tuning a resolution? And maybe in the interest of time, so you have it ready by the
Yes.
second meeting of this month?
We
So we can go
we
ahead and
can
send
bring
that.
that back as quick as possible. I think we have a draft of the ordinance as well as a budget report, just to get started. We've seen those from other municipalities, so we have versions of those.
Okay.
So we can see that at the end of the month, or next meeting.
Yes, we'll bring that at the next meeting so action can be taken, so we can finalize that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all for your consideration and thoughts on that matter and bringing those to us tonight. The next agenda subsection is new business, and we have a presentation from One Digital Employees Benefit from Rand Williams with that company, and it's regarding our insurance renewal and the increases, if any, in medical and dental, and also life. So, Corey, anything else other than that we need to do but introduce Rand? Rand's worked with us for years. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, Fran's here, Tammy and I did have a preliminary review of this. Virginia and I have also been using some of these values for placeholders. And I think Rand will go into some of the details of how this compares to what we've seen on the open market. And there would be action required tonight if we choose to move forward with this particular.
Okay, Rand, thank you.
Good to see everybody, good to be here. Should have brought my son with me, he's also a legal, checking off that requirement for the next time. There's a lot of information in this packet or presentation, along with just for informative context. I think you'll find that the proposed recommendations for vote are pretty straightforward, but we'll go ahead and dive in. Just high level, it was a more challenging negotiation this year between Corey and Tammy and my team. We've been going back and forth with Cigna for almost a month now. What you see here on the left is the amount Cigna budgets, what they think your claims will be under $50,000 for any given person. And you see how it got pretty bumpy there towards the fall and through the middle of your plan year, where your claims have been about 125% higher than what they budgeted. On the other hand, it's not as if the total premiums you're paying are a whole lot, the loss ratios aren't over 100%, this is just the claims budget. So Cigna's not really making any money on you this year, but they're not really losing a ton of money either. But initially they wanted a 20% increase, which nothing really goes up in any other business, except 20% in health insurance, unfortunately, is not that uncommon. On the other hand, a couple of your highest claimants had some conditions that were not as ongoing, so we were able to work with them quite a bit to the point where we do think this is a fair offer. Some things just for the context is really your claims are 18 or 20% higher than they were a year ago, so I think an increase is warranted. Another thing is the trend inflation in our industry. It's always been high, but inflation everywhere else being higher, so is medical inflation and prescription inflation. 3 or 4 years ago, insurance companies were using about a 6% figure Now it's going all the way up to 8 to 9%. Unfortunately, just in the news today, United Healthcare stock's down 18%. Cigna and others follow because they're seeing claims spike a little more than they expected. And there's a lot of different factors to that, but where we are with your other high claimants, a lot of them are on these specialty medications. These are medications that help that person. They need to be on them, but they unfortunately cost $50,000 or more a year. And so we're not proposing to do anything different, it's just for the context. And another thing just to point out, like is Cigna a good partner to us? We have the ability to go to market, consider their options. What we'll be showing in this offer is basically Cigna's offer as long as you're willing to not consider other offers. We had some bumps earlier, let's say last fall, people may have heard that Once Mutual fell out of network with Cigna. Once was a part of a conglomerate of other local pharmacies in North Carolina called Epic, who would go and negotiate network contracts as a collective whole, so the individual pharmacy, the small guy doesn't get beat up too bad. Unfortunately, they couldn't come to an agreement, so all of those local pharmacies fell out of network, including Once Mutual. I was really impressed or pleasantly surprised that Cigna did work with us to do a special contract directly with Mr. Blunt to get him the reimbursement levels that he asked for, and so he wasn't being bullied around, but it took a lot longer than we had hoped. A lot of the compliance issues with trying to do something like that, but that was the only one of those that was done in the state of North Carolina for these Epic pharmacies. So I do think there's something to be said for that, and once this agreement is, it doesn't have an expiration, it's as long as we continue to renew with Cigna, that will be in place. Other thing we were looking at, just historically, it's almost every 2 good years you have in this world, it's always followed by a little bit of a bumpy year. We've been fortunate over the last 5 years to see really average increases of about 6%. We're usually telling employers to budget at least 10% between inflation and just the overall utilization of people getting older and getting on these medications. But overall, I think we've gotten to a place where we're right at the trend inflation for this year, which is a little higher than we'd like. But we are recommending that you renew with Cigna and not consider other market offers. And that's kind of proposition number one. There's some technical things going on here at the bottom where Cigna is saying you could renew and your rate increase would be 10.9%, but we'll give you a $34,000 one-time bill credit, which we kind of consider bribes, or it's just a one-time thing to make you feel better about the increase. And so the other option, we said we don't want to see the premiums go up as much. Let's change some mechanics around and change something behind the scenes that's your stop loss level. Doesn't impact your risk or anything on that front, but then we get the rates down to 8.9% instead of 10.9. In exchange, it's a smaller one-time bill credit of $11,000 and some change. So we are recommending that second option, because we'd rather have your premiums stay lower since they do get increases which become exponential every year versus the one-time bribe that we won't be able to benefit from a year from now. Just other things going on with your benefits. The dental's receiving a 4.5% increase. That's for inflation. We're kind of held hostage there and looked at other options because if you stay with Cigna for dental, we retain a 1% discount on our medical rates, which is a lot of money. And then the other benefits are not really going up except a small short-term disability increase. That plan is employee paid. So overall, when we look at the dollars behind this, and when we talk to Corey, I think he kind of had a budget figure. The way he looks at things is per employee per year. What is the cost of our medical, dental, and life, the employer-paid programs, all in? And with this increase, assuming that the town would keep the employee cost per paycheck the same for their benefits, it would amount to about $13,278 per employee per year expense, which I do think is below your budget. And then at the bottom, you'll see the true dollars behind it based on the people that you have enrolled today. It would be roughly an $82,000 increase that the town would absorb to make sure employees per paycheck cost do not change. So that is our first proposed recommendation, is to stay with Cigna and renew these plans and absorb the increase on behalf of your employees. Open the floor for questions or anything I can do to help clarify anything.
Mayor and council, just one thing I think we may have overlooked, when we were going through this, if you look initially, we mentioned the word 20% for initial offer, but it actually was, 27%. So Brand's group has done a great job getting us to this 7.9. And one of the things that Tammy and I discussed in this group, when we talked about market, is those numbers actually lower than what Brand's group is seeing in the open market for changes from year over year from changing to a different provider. So I think we had said 8 something is what you were seeing
Yeah.
in the open market.
About 8.5, unfortunately.
So,
You brought up Blunt's Pharmacy, which is a local business that's been here for a while. How are y'all able to negotiate on their behalf, or how are they able to negotiate and get that done?
We serve as kind of an intermediary because we have the contacts at Cigna to at least, and honestly, the reason we were able to do it is because the service and the accessibility at Walgreens or CVS is so minimal. We were able to convince Cigna that they just didn't have any other options. Even if they didn't want to support a local business, it was more like, let's do the right thing, yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, me too.
Can't imagine my life without Jim Blunt.
Had a lot of conversations with Mr. Blunt over
Yeah, I'm happy to
He
hear
is a great guy.
Yeah.
Corey, do the employees know what kind of great benefit they have for this thing?
Tammy's done an outstanding job in the last 2 years, really building out benefits around insurance offerings for the full package, and also when we talk about some of the changes that we made before this fiscal year with the holidays and the way things would change there. So yes, they are well aware, and they came to us as soon as we had an issue with Blunt's, let us know. Tammy was on that almost immediately with Rand and his group and Mr. Blunt trying to navigate this thing. So
Does this help with recruitment, Tammy, too? Good.
Well, and Corey, you're the one that's been studying this. Is this your, you think this is what we ought to do?
yes, Tammy and I both agree that this is the right option for us, going to market and risking getting 8.5 or 9% change just to have a new company, and to risk someone grabbing us for 1 year at a no change and then double dipping the following year when we could have stayed where we were and had a consistent forecast on where we're headed. It's
Corey,
the right thing.
Do we hear any major complaints from our employees on ours that we need to be aware of?
And the only issue we had was the pharmacy issue to begin
Okay.
with. Folks seem to be very satisfied with this. I think one of the things that we had discussed is having a little more education this year as we approach July 1 about how beneficial the HSA options are for some of our younger employees, and to have an additional retirement or savings opportunity there that they may not understand fully.
Or want right now at
Yeah.
that age?
So,
So Corey, it looks like it's gonna take our per employee cost for this benefit up to $13,278, is that correct?
Yes.
And do we have that, we have room in the budget for that?
we do, this actually made it in last year's budget, which is wonderful. So where we are this year did see an increase that's still consistent with the small delta there to allow for these per employee numbers to go up or down, plus or minus $100.
Did we look at any wellness programs in the town for employees? Okay.
Rand, you've been doing this, Dad did before you did it, so thank you for sticking with us.
Sure, thank y'all. Thank you with us.
Now, this matter does require action on our part, so I want to make sure, are there any more questions or comments on this?
I just want to thank you for your help with this. Especially working this fun. That's a good deal.
One thing before we get ready for a motion, I think we do need to at least chime in on the two scenarios of around the HSA options that we can decide to keep as is or make a modification.
So the second part of this, I don't really see it as a budget-driven decision. It's kind of a, which flavor do you want? Some of you may remember last year, we introduced the HSA eligible health plan for the first time. And with that, you have HSA contributions the town makes into these health savings accounts for your people. And then ultimately, in exchange for that, employees don't have co-pays for day-to-day services. They've got to meet their deductible before coverage kicks in other than preventive care. We did some educating, but it's a lot for somebody to wrap their head around. You have very little interest or adoption in the HSA plan. I think it was probably not a huge surprise, but I think we can make the proposition a little bit better. So if you look at this page here, page 8, this just shows for your copay plan, the amount the town contributes and just the premium costs on the top. And then when you have this savings account eligible plan, the premiums are lower, but then the town puts in some of the HSA account, and you'll see that the total employer contribution, right, as it stands today, is still less than what y'all contribute into the copay plan. And so what we're proposing, if you turn to page 9, is we want to try to incentivize some adoption here for a lot of different reasons, but not as much for the town's benefit as the individual's benefit. And ultimately what we're proposing is increasing the HSA contribution in a way that you're almost at an equal all-in investment, whether somebody picks the copay plan or they pick the HSA plan. And we're just proposing that you double the amount you contribute towards the employee-only HSA account. And in doing that, if somebody chooses that HSA plan, the town still actually saves a little bit of money, but the employee is now getting $2,400 of tax-free compensation from the town. That's covering their deductible and then some. And we do think your demographics trended a little bit younger, and if you get any interest, a lot of it can come from the younger demographic, the healthier. They look up a few years from now and they've got $5,000+ in this account that we've provided them. But they can also make their own contributions into the account and save on taxes as well. So I think just more and more education will get a little bit more adoption, but the only cost increase potential is the employee children rate. We're just saying make that a proportionate $250. Technically, the town pays $10 more a month and some change if somebody elects the HSA versus the copay plan. But back to my comment, we feel like it's a budget neutral decision. Scenario 1, just keep things the way they are, but you might as well put a little bit bigger carrot into the HSA account for the same dollars that you're spending today anyway. And that's why our recommendation is the scenario 2.
Two benefits our employees more.
I think so. And it'll just attract a little more interest, because a lot of people are scared of not having those copays until they need a deductible. It'd be nice if you could put in the full $2,400 day one, but we have to spread it out a little bit and put in a little bit front load.
And Corey and Tammy, from y'all's research, what would your recommendation be on scenario 1 and 2?
I think scenario 2 is an added benefit if the individual has selected HSA. And I think when we look at this, it would be worth noting the counts of employees that are in certain packages, as far as employee spouse, employee children, and employee family. I know that we have a large number for employee only. It's the majority of our staff. So I mean, this benefit would be felt if they could choose the HSA by a large
And we
majority.
want to encourage HSA.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And I think the remainder of children, employee and family, I think is the
That
next.
was employee children. We have like 14 employee children, I think,
Yeah.
and 4 or 5
So
families.
what you're recommending is stay
Scenario
where we are and go
two.
with scenario 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want that in form of
We can handle that in one motion.
So I'll put that in form of
That's second.
We've got a motion and second to accept the proposal to remain where we are on this benefit package, and also the motion includes adopting scenario 2 as it relates to the HSA contributions. Any further comment or questions on that?
Does it follow the same open enrollment process as anything else, November, December, or?
The open enrollment's for July 1st when our new plan
Okay.
start, so we'll be doing education as similar to what we've done in the past, starting probably next week or the week after and through the first couple weeks of June.
Good.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. If there are no more questions or comments, all in favor of accepting the recommendations of staff and Rand Williams, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for your work on this. Yep, we look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy.
Our next agenda item is a presentation of draft architectural design guidelines that have been prepared by Chris and Jenny Liberatos of Liberatos Architects LLC. Jenny and Chris, if y'all come forward.
Introduce the concept of what we're working on, as I understand it,
Corey, can I introduce?
Yes.
Yeah. Johnny, if you don't know.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight I have, Christopher and Jenny Liberatos, here tonight. If you remember back in our planning session in January, one of the big key things we had talked about was 2025 being, for us, really kind of the year of planning. We've seen a lot of residential, commercial, and industrial growth, with some of our, partners and economic developers that we've had, coming in. And so, this year, when we met to go through planning, we knew when we considered land use, when we considered commercial spaces, when we considered options, for a historic district, just the full portfolio of everything we look at. One of the big key things that we historically was how we do commercial spaces right. When I say commercial spaces, we really talk about some of these large-scale retail spaces that we have that we've struggled with. When we look back at the 3 vacant buildings we've had downtown for quite a while, with the Sears building being one of the top performers in that national brand for year after year after year. And we look at the struggles that we've had with the shopping center in North Edenton, as well as the former shopping center that was condemned and destroyed by the town. Commercial spaces have to be done right. If you remember back in 2022, we had Ed McMahon come in with us to start us down this conversation of what commercial spaces can look like. We do a really good job on adaptive reuse when we talk about our smaller commercial spaces here and how multiple businesses can establish there. So Chris and Jenny, architectural group we've been working with now for probably 8 or 9 months. One of the things we asked them to do is to help us with commercial guidelines for these type of spaces. We all worry about the next big bankruptcy, we all worry about the next big loss of some national chain, and for us to have some type of provisions in place to help and buffer that and provide us some cushions is really what we're looking for here. So this is the initial draft. We're going to be working, Wayne and I are going to be working, Chris and Jenny, over the next few months. We should see kind of a final draft in July on this. And anyways,
So in terms of council, we have a good 2 months to
yes.
look at this, to
Yes.
dive deep in it,
Yeah.
and talk among ourselves.
Did Sambo ask you to put that picture up there?
It's such a beautiful. It's our greatest fan.
Oh, it's horrible.
it's quite an introduction to y'all's lovely town, I have to say. Well, you're all set for us. We just wanted to start by saying what a joy it's been to get to know Edenton, your beautiful small town, and to congratulate you on great reservation work you've done so far. What you're tackling now is a pretty monumental task, trying to get good architecture in a time when there's not a lot of good new architecture, especially in the commercial realm. So we're doing what we can to help lay out some guidelines, to give you some guidance on that front. We're going to introduce ourselves very quickly, just so you know who you're working with. We're 2 classically trained architects. We work for a number of firms around the world. Started our own firm in 2010 in Charleston. And these are projects of ours that we have completed since then. Sorry, this is a little washed out. We also work on urban planning, master planning projects. This is in Leesburg, Virginia, designed for a new pedestrian street. And this is a proposal we did for a new neighborhood extension outside of Charleston. So you can see the scales that we work at. It's important to know who we are because we're basically guiding the theory behind your guidelines. And so this is what we believe. We believe that if you're working in a place of unique architectural character, like Edenton, you should do so in keeping with the patterns of the place. And so in order to do that, we go into a place wherever we're working, and we study it at 3 scales: the urban patterns, the architectural patterns, and the construction patterns. This isn't just our theory, this is basically the theory of traditional architecture for centuries. This is just how we put it into words. And in addition, so we don't have time to go in detail through all of the commercial guidelines. You've got the document and hopefully you've read it and maybe have some questions for us. But we thought we'd give you a little bit of context for why the guidelines are written the way that they are. And it always starts with that question, why are new buildings so disappointing? We could give you an hour-long talk on each of these items, honestly. We're going to try to just give you a sentence on each. Architectural education is not what a lot of people expect it to be. Preservation also is not holding up its end of the bargain, what they promise. And the building industry and zoning and building codes. These are basically what you're up against. This is why you're not getting good new architecture just automatically. So there's almost no school that teaches traditional architecture anymore. There are 140 architecture schools in the country, and only one focuses on traditional and classical architecture. This is a proposal for a building in the city of Charleston by Clemson Architecture School. My alma mater is the University of Virginia, a campus that's known for beautiful architecture, but they only teach anti-traditional modernist architecture. Preservation, likewise, it is, sorry to say, preservation does a lot of amazing work. They are great at preserving old buildings. They study materials and all of that very well, but they can't necessarily be relied upon to support new traditional architecture, shall we say. And again, the building industry, with the zoning and the building codes, they really have all just shifted the focus away from the local building trades and towards building components that can be assembled, shipped in from elsewhere and assembled. Zoning and building codes also have been built up over the years to preference modernist suburban sprawl type of planning and kind of everywhere USA architecture. So that's why buildings are so disappointing. What can be done about it? So there's the traditional way of going about building a city. So the city starts as a little nucleus of an idea. You'll excuse us for being very Charleston-centric, but these are 3 Charleston maps, examples of how cities grow traditionally. This is how Edenton has grown. You start with a few streets and a few blocks you see in 1704. And then as the population grows, as their needs expand, you lay out more streets, you add more blocks, and then you rely on traditional architects and builders to fill in the gaps, fill in the blocks, fill in the lots with nice buildings that all work harmoniously together. Since this model can't be purely relied upon anymore, and places of unique character need to kind of reestablish what their languages are to present. If buildings are being built by people out of town, we want to be able to show them this is what Edenton's architecture is about, and here's how you can go about working within the character of our place. So that's what we've started for you. This is the outline of our commercial architectural guidelines. We're very focused on the commercial side of your buildings. You seem to do very well with your residential. You don't have any
major complaints in that regard, so commercial is really a great place to focus. And it's a text draft, so a drawing is worth 1,000 words, and unfortunately, we're giving you thousands of words, because the second phase is to get once y'all agree that this is the direction you want to go in, the drawings will illustrate the points that we're making in the text. There are other places that have put guidelines, architectural guidelines into use, and some more successful than others. This is an example from Biltmore Village, which is just south of Asheville. They put these guidelines together in 1992, and you can see some of the things that they're encouraging their developers to consider. Top left says encourage commercial development in historical context. Bottom left says orient buildings to the pedestrian. Reuse historical elements, encourage architectural signage. All things that have really encouraged the development of their place to be of their place. So they've managed to get chains like McDonald's and Talbot's to work within the language of Biltmore Village, which is a kind of mountain town, and have had much more success than they might have otherwise. Nantucket is a place whose guidelines we point to a lot. They've done a very good job of keeping their character intact by encouraging new development to be within the character of the place, following the urban architectural and building patterns. And this is just a rendering, but it's a new building that's proposed, a new mixed-use building, so commercial on the ground floor, and either residence or offices above. And it's much more successful than some of the other new buildings you see being proposed elsewhere, especially the scale. You see it's really an intimate scale, and the details, it's just a rendering, but you can tell that the details are headed in the right direction. So we thought we'd walk quickly through the outline of your guidelines and leave space for questions. But we've basically broken down the guidelines into two sections. And the first is helping developers understand what your character is. What is the character of Edenton? And the second part is how to put that to use. So what that actually looks like in practice, goals for planning new commercial developments. Let's see where we want to start on this. So a quick overview, again, very quickly, of urban Edenton. Edenton was laid out as a classical grid. It's very common for towns and cities of this time, and also it's very common for, towns and cities across America. Like the images I showed of Charleston, where it starts as a nucleus of an idea, and then your grid expands out and the city is filled out. That's what's happened to Edenton. So it's a classical grid. The elements are streets, squares, or gardens, and blocks. And then they're organized by neighborhood, so you have sort of segments of the city that have similar characters. Another one of Edenton's urban patterns is that you have a variety of street types. So not all streets are the same, but the common element that all of the town's streets have is that the buildings address and define the street. This is counter to what you see happening a lot now in modernist developments, where the building is an island building that's surrounded only by parking. It's a very traditional concept that the buildings face the street and help create spaces, outdoor spaces. Edenton's architectural patterns, we would say that there are all of the contributing buildings in Edenton partake in the classical language and are made up of traditional styles. So while there's great diversity and the styles vary greatly, because they all speak the classical language, they harmonize. Another one of a traditional element of kind of traditional buildings is that in a town, there are foreground buildings and there are background buildings. There are your monumental buildings, and then there are your simple background fabric, we call them, buildings. Commercial buildings, for the most part, can be very simple background buildings. They don't need to be grand architectural statements, which is great because it's much easier to get a simple background building than a grand architectural statement. But we have this expression, good buildings make great streets. You just need simple, good background buildings, and then let the shops and the awnings and the planters make that, bring the street to life. Edenton's architectural, construction patterns are that your traditional buildings are durable and they're repairable. This is a really important aspect. And when Corey talks about wanting buildings to be able to be reused, we talk about temporary buildings or legacy buildings. And you don't really want people building legacy buildings in Edenton because you want them to be able to, if the business unfortunately goes bankrupt, you want another business to be able to pop up into the building right away. And since we've been here, I don't know when the last time we were here, but so many businesses have opened on the main street. It's just impressive to see. But if you see those buildings being put to use, they've been used by generation after generation of shop owners. It's so much easier to start a business when you don't have that initial investment. So you get a lot of inventive, interesting shops wanting to come into the space. So durable and repairable is very important for new buildings. And y'all have done such a great job in maintaining the building trades in terms of preservation. We've seen really great new roofs going up on houses around town. But just think of what could be done, how you could strengthen the building economy if those trades were put to use on new buildings as well. We were talking about architectural style earlier. So the list on the left are styles, traditional styles that we've seen in Edenton. As you can see, and as I said earlier, there's a great variety. And some of them you think of as looking almost nothing like the others. But because they are part of the classical language, they do live next to each other really well. And they create an ensemble. So incongruous styles to avoid would be anti-traditional styles such as brutalism, internationalism, blobism. I don't know if y'all have come across that. Thankfully you haven't in here. Random patchwork quilt is probably one that you'll see before the other ones, where it's just like a kind of mishmash of materials that get put onto the facade and don't have any real relation to gravity or structure or anything like that. But these come from a very particular philosophy of architecture, the kind that's taught in most architecture schools today. And that is, they purposefully want to stand out from their surroundings. They want to be the unique building in an otherwise harmonious ensemble. But when you invite that into your ensemble, it just degrades the character because it's not speaking the same language as the rest of your buildings. So we have a few quick lists of common mistakes in new commercial buildings. We won't go through all of these. We've again broken them down into urban patterns, architectural patterns, and construction patterns. Highway scaled shop signs. You don't see this on Main Street, and when you get to pedestrian scaled signs, it really energizes and enlivens a street as opposed to these giant signs that are meant to be seen just driving by. Island buildings, drive-throughs that come across the frontage of a building is really detrimental to that continuous building frontage that makes nice streets. Developments with disconnected street patterns, this is a problem that y'all have in a few locations, where a developer has a big piece of land, and so they have to lay out their own street network, but they don't connect to the grid that's already been established, and so they create traffic in a way that's not as efficient as the grid that y'all have established. Ambiguous and undefined open spaces is another issue that often comes in these kind of sprawl types of development. Architectural patterns, these are things, I mean, I know that y'all went through the CBS situation, so I know that you know some of these things, unoccupied or unoccupiable upper floors. Buildings over 5 stories we think would probably be out of character in Edenton. You know, overly complicated volumes, block-sized buildings, things that really bother us, misapplied classical elements, poorly proportioned porches. These are all things that we're trying to help write guidelines to give guidance against horizontal windows and window panes is one that we see quite a bit. And then construction patterns, thin veneer, look-alike materials, overscaled elements, again, abstract moldings, cantilevers, tinted glass, cobra neck lighting, so anything that's kind of keeps any of the street furniture of your city. You walk down Main Street, it's so beautifully scaled, it's just perfect. The street lights are down next to the pedestrians, even the traffic lights are down next to the pedestrians. These are so important, these details, and if you don't specifically require them or ask for them or suggest them, they definitely will not be the first choice for a new developer. So again, part of understanding Edenton's character is looking at what a successful commercial building will look like. Y'all have plenty here, got plenty to work with, lots of great examples. These are just a few that we pulled off of Main Street. You can also look at regional precedents. There's no, you know, Edenton is unique in that it is the only place exactly like Edenton, but you share an architectural language with the whole of the Southeast. And there are plenty of wonderful places to take inspiration from. One of these is from Southern Times, one of them is from Pinehurst. But even, you know, a shop front in New York, not regional, but you can take inspiration from these things. And then these are what we would qualify as successful, recently built commercial projects. You don't see a lot of really inspiring new commercial work. But one building in particular in Williamsburg, on the upper left, is just beautifully built and worth taking a look at. But you see the one on the upper right also, especially from this vantage, fairly simple. You know, it's not a high-end classical building. When you zoom in on it, you can see that the architect knew what they were doing, and the details are all right, and it looks very good. The proportions are, but it's not a, you know, high classical building like the ones you see on the lower register there. So part 1 was getting to know Edenton. Part 2 are goals for new development. This is, these are examples of a grocery store chain in England. So Waitrose is in England, but the same holds true in the U.S. There's a standard model, there's a better model, and then there's the best model. I think Corey has talked about it as A, B, and C models. We all want to encourage the developers to bring you their very best. They have to decide how committed to the place that they are. Can they leave a legacy building? Do they want to be here for a long time? And so these are just some ways of thinking about that. Again, the way that we've broken down the goals for the development are urban architectural and construction patterns. And I can just walk you quickly through the outline for that, and then y'all can let us know if you have any questions. But urban patterns. So in urban patterns, we have the two kind of good and bad examples on the screen. But the outline of the guidelines first addresses town planning or master planning. That's again going back to y'all's grid and how could you expand it? How do the streets and blocks define what the new areas of your city become? And then we address items that are in the public realm. That has to do with streets, squares, which are public outdoor rooms, transportation, and right-of-way design. So everything from the lot line out into the streets. And then the third section of urban planning, urban patterns, is the private realm. So that's within the lot line. That has to do with blocks, their design, lots, siding of buildings and frontage design. That's everything between the building and the lot line. Architectural patterns, we break that down into massing and composition. These are very complex. This is really where the images will come into play. It's very hard to describe architecture in words, but we have laid it out in text as best we could, and hope that the drawings will help clarify some of the things. There's a lot of language that just isn't the vernacular, but we're here to answer questions too. Anyway, massing and composition are the two broad subjects for architecture. And then construction is broken down into building materials and building elements. So that's how you use brick in this area, how you use stone in this area is building materials, versus building elements would be a door surround. How do one of the common types of door surrounds in Edenton. That does it for this.
I'm gonna lead off with a question. So, you know, we've been trying to get model authority, you get 1, 2, and 3 on all our buildings, and we've succeeded in some places. But if you ride down to Nag's Head and go into Manio, there's a CVS right there that looks great. We've all seen it. When you
Right before the culture.
and they got that, and we got this, and I think that's why these people are here. I mean, I just think we can say, you build stuff, and it's not always more expensive. You just have to not build it like you're gonna build it in California. Because what makes this place different is that it's different from Elizabeth City, or, I mean, we don't wanna look like that. You know what I mean? It's just different than all those other places.
I remember you talking to CVS people here, and.
You were here when we
Yeah,
did.
they gave us a runaround, like, they're gonna do what they wanna do.
And I hadn't thought about the drive-through in the
Yeah.
front. It's got a drive-through right in front of the
Yeah.
box,
And it's
right in
there.
the front. When you-
I've noticed that, sorry to interrupt, but the barbecue place right next to it has a drive-through, but it doesn't go across the front, and it makes such a big difference.
Okay, so thank you for making that presentation, and what I would propose that we do is go through it in greater detail on your own, and maybe use Corey as the collector of our questions and concerns, and then you can work with them over the next couple of months and keep us updated on the progress. So if you have any comments, questions, as you review it a little bit deeper than you have thus far, I just pass those along to Corey, and we would encourage discussion among ourselves as we see things that we might like or things that we might not like.
Mayor, may I make one comment that is not super serious? I think this is the only time in Edenton Town Council history that we will have back-to-back College of Charleston graduates in front of a College of Charleston graduate, and so I just wanted to highlight that, because it may never happen. Thank y'all.
So noted.
Brand Williams was also from the College of Charleston.
Okay, all right. I certainly understand why you pointed that out.
Don't get that opportunity.
I understand.
Also,
So thank you guys so much.
I hope the
And,
newspaper catches Sambo in CBS someday.
Okay, our next agenda item is a budget amendment. This budget amendment is for the total of $391,437. This is to recognize a grant from the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund for the Morgan Park Accessibility Project. The budget amendment allows grant funds to be received by the town, so we'll need to pass this to recognize those incoming funds. There is a match requirement for the town that totals $97,859. However, I'm pleased to report that that money will come from previous ARPA Parks funding that has previously been awarded to the town. So it will not have any budget implications for us. And we look forward to seeing the Morgan Park become more accessible and be more inclusive to everyone, but it will also include rubber surfacing, a pavilion, basketball court, safety fence, and concrete curbs and sidewalk. Anything else, Corey?
I said Corey and Dwayne, I mean, whoever's working on this, these parks are
It's
looking
beautiful.
great, so thank y'all.
They're looking great.
Work. No cost, I mean,
Wayne and Dave have done an outstanding job with the existing parks. If you look at the dollar amount, this is consistent with what we have spent, as is, for the other locations. To use that same dollar amount to have a match opportunity, this is
I said the playground equipment at Morgan Park is coming in next month.
It's supposed to be delivered the 22nd of, or delivery will, it will ship the 22nd. It will be here early June. I know David is going to meet with the playground equipment installer as well as a subcontractor on the job. Go ahead and try to get things prepared for when the equipment arrives for that
And those
install.
installers know what they're doing. I mean, hey, that's a, have any rendering of what's gonna look like?
Yeah, we can send those out, and I think it's pretty close to what we had.
It should be exact. There may be a little bit difference in sidewalks and stuff like that, but the playground.
Yeah, it should be on our park update section of the website, and I think the only thing that may have changed is the sidewalk, and I think the placement of the pavilion. I think there was some
Yeah,
rotating.
community input.
Yeah, after we had gotten the input from the neighborhood to divide the older kids area with the pavilion and then with the younger children.
As the neighborhood parks are concerned, it's probably one of your largest, so not Morgan Park.
Yes, acreage wise, yes.
Yeah.
So the pavilion's gonna separate the younger kids' equipment from the older kids' equipment.
Yes, and we tried to do that at any of the other locations to try to put those if space was available to give some like parental or guardian boundary between where younger children may play and where older children may be.
And that's a full court basketball court.
Yes.
Okay, action is required on this. If there are no other comments or questions, I would entertain a motion to approve this budget amendment to recognize the incoming funds and to approve the necessary match
So
requirement.
moved, Mayor.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have approved that. Corey, next we move to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. There were a total of 4 public comments on the April 8th meeting. Mrs. Virginia Tan expressed concerns regarding the new traffic pattern on Broad Street. Ms. Tan spoke about the Virginia/Broad area. This intersection has been shared with NCDOT for the final striping plans. These small alterations for these areas were shared multiple times with images and diagrams to NCDOT. We're still encouraging these changes to be made. We haven't had any official response yet from them. Earlier tonight we talked about trying to share whatever final striping plan that they had. Pat Grover gave a suggestion also around the street paving near the East Church area. This intersection has been shared with NCDOT also for final striping, and we're hoping that these alterations, along with any of the other ones we have received, particularly around East Gale and West Gale, Park Avenue, and Virginia Road, are incorporated. Mr. Hal Murray spoke regarding the Tom Newbern being a member of the Indian Historic Preservation Commission, and that he was not a resident of Edenton and was a resident of Perfect County, should not be able to serve on this board. I have received legal guidance back from the town attorney as well as North Carolina School of Government. I'm going to work with the mayor and council to schedule a time to share this with them and any of the affected parties as well from those decisions. Susan Ingles talked about the plastic pollution for the town council to consider. This ordinance was drafted and under consideration tonight, and we have a response there as far as a letter of support. When I look at the items considered timely and important, Councilman Vaughn had concerns about the Broad Street striping. Again, we have worked with NCDOT on all these areas, images, diagrams, to sure to show them what we're looking for. We're still encouraging DOT to make these changes. I did request final striping plan today, and I'm glad to share with the council if I can get my hands on it. Councilman Costin asked about the lighting at Frog Crossing, the Moses Street issues, and the striping on Park Avenue. Code enforcement and the electric department have worked with the property owner to correct these angle issues. The business is planning to install a new canopy, and this should help with some of the lighting that you're seeing from the building making its way onto Virginia Road. These lights are all private and attached to the building. We did go out and try to see if there was anything town-wise that we needed to correct, and most of this is what's attached to the structure itself. We have not had any other calls on the Moses Street issue around the breeze. I'm glad David's here tonight. I know that Public Works will continue to monitor this area. David's been by multiple times. We're keeping an eye on this. One thing I did want to remind any of our residents, if there's ever any type of personal civil matter or issues between any of the neighboring residents, that they need to discuss this with the Joe County Magistrate. If there's any type of personal dispute, we'll do everything we can to assist with what we can on the within the town's rules and ordinances. And again, as far as the striping on Park Avenue, we're going to work with NCDOT to make these changes, which we did request that at least a bus width lane was added to turn left onto Park Avenue, like they're at Virginia Road. Council Miller asked about the paving on Granville between Freemason and Carteret, and also gave a special thanks to Public Works for park improvements. Much to our surprise last week, Virginia and David were able to locate the funds to pave this year. So we're excited about that.
We don't need a budget amendment or anything like that on that, it's covered in there.
That's right, it's covered this year. One thing we did want to share is we are waiting on this paving to be completed, a contractor to help with some of the valve heights that Fred Smith will have back in, as well as a lingering encroachment agreement with the railroad to pave that remaining section from Colony Tire to the main location.
So Dave did some tough negotiating with Fred Smith Paving Company?
Yes, and
Fantastic.
was able to get something that.
And you found money elsewhere in the budget?
So, great job for him in Virginia.
Can you make a statement about the painting coming back?
The painting will happen after the paving is complete. Now, it would be a safe assumption that it was happen after the valves are addressed, Granville Street section has been paved, and any of the paving needed around the railroad on North Broad between Meeting and Colony Tire were paved. Striping should happen after that. That should give us time to try to get an understanding of the crosswalk situation as well. We've already provided an update on the equipment for Morgan Park. Councilman Turner had asked about that. Again, there should be a meeting on May 22nd with David and those folks. Councilman Sellers asked about line of sight southbound on Granville four-way stop, as well as the delayed boogie on Broad Street from the Main Street Edenton organization. I did reach out to Public Works, and David informed me that this has been taken care of the following day after that meeting. So that's been addressed, and the date for boogie on Broad was scheduled is rescheduled for November 7th. We got that this morning from Chess when we got the official schedule for the remainder of the event. So they was general public for that.
November 7th.
November 7th. And these official announcements have been drafted for social media. So do expect the Main Street Edenton TDA, as well as maybe the PIO, is going to try to get that stuff pushed out from that rescheduling. Mayor, that's all I have for the minute.
Thanks, as always, Corey. We appreciate your follow-up on all those items. The next agenda item is items considered timely and important. The only thing that I have is concern about the length of the traffic light cycles on Broad Street now, at Broad and Queen, at Broad and Church. And what control do we have over those, what is being done, and then what is the explanation for why it's like that?
Well, this is not the first time this has come up. We can handle this now. We've got-
Okay, that's all right.
The default on these electrical controls for the lighting is a timer. Timers are always the fail-safe. They're almost like a mechanical device, but they're an electrical timer that has some type of mechanical gear. Anyways, that's the default for these switches. How you get increased or shorter times on these are sensors. In the road sensors, those in-the-road sensors are installed after the paving is complete. So the delays that we've seen is because the default is just a timer.
Thank you.
To make sure you have plenty of time. Things should return to normal. If there's any tweaking, David will work with.
We can share that with our
Yeah.
Can we push that out to social media? I don't get access 10 times a day.
So as soon as those sensors installed, things should return back to more of a normal time.
I've got one. I wonder if we should have, take the lead in this and have some type of public, informational session about whether or not the people that live down in the Mill Village would like town to approach Preservation, North Carolina by taking this park. So I think we all know that they are basically ready to turn them over, but I think that we need some public input to find out what the residents really is. And,
Is there more than one? Is there more than one?
well, there's the water side, there's the waterfront that we could, we have cleared before. I mean, it was a while back, and Anne Marie had it cleared with, she's using all that prison labor then, but, you can see the water. It was beautiful. And, you were probably a little boy, but, you'll remember it anyway. But all the trees were there, but everything was, you could just see the water. And then, they may want to take them over themselves, but I don't know what the maintenance cost or whatever. But, I think it'd be a really good thing for us to at least explore whether the residents want that. And the second thing is, you walk down the sidewalks and on Saturdays now and on Sundays, and there are people everywhere. I mean, it's just all these things we've done for all these years, and all the stuff Chess is doing is working. And if you go, so I was in Hertford the other day, and they were like, "How do y'all do it?" I said, "Well, you got to get to work, And so I think they can do it too, but they just got to do some of these Main Street things that we've done. I think we really ought to pat ourselves on the back because it is a different place. It's a different place than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, we had ice cream together, Sambo, on Sunday at 6:30
Yeah.
on Broad Street.
In the morning?
PM.
I'm early too.
Corey, and speaking of that, I'm going to rely upon you to report this correctly, but if I'm not mistaken, either last year or the first quarter of this year, Edenton's sales tax growth was the second in the entire state of North Carolina?
It's number one or number two. I need to confirm the
And
Chess.
for what time period? Was that last year or the first quarter?
Chess reported on it.
I thought it was number one.
It was a longer segment than just
A quarter.
a quarter. The state average was between 2% and 3%, and I remember him presenting a 14% number. Now, I want to say that was on a 5 or 10 year scale of what we had trended versus what the statewide average had been. But there had been an uptick, almost an exponential uptick in about a 3 to 4 year window.
Can you verify that with
Yes.
him and then push
Yes.
that out
Yeah.
to media and social
Yeah.
media? Because that's certainly something that needs to be reported.
Yes.
Two things. I know we were supposed to be having a meeting with the railroad company last month, or this month. One more meeting.
We have, so on the railroad, Dwayne and I have met with Mr. Saylor, the former railroad attorney, retired railroad attorney. We have shared a full list of properties for the eastern track as well as the western track. There's a difference in your next steps between what appears as a paper street, what appears as a dedicated easement, what appears as a owned property. All those parcels in order have been shown and mapped with the parcel IDs. He's working with us to determine what the next steps are because, of course, we'll have to start with whichever one's the simplest. And we'll categorize them and say these are the 10 that are the easiest to navigate, these are the next steps. Then we move to the next level, and ultimately the ones that are owned will probably be the most difficult ones to work through. So depending on how the property is classified, will depend on what the next steps are. He is providing us the east and west.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've reached out to Norfolk Southern to get maps to include the town and ETJ, so I'm just waiting on them to send those back if they will.
Okay. The second thing is our paving schedule is after our budget year starts, but do we already have our potential list of our roads, or you have not identified?
We have not.
Okay.
Yet. We have an idea of what's remaining from the original 2017 evaluation that was done. What we need to do is make sure that any of those category 1 or category 2 ones have been just pushed off. I do think one of the things Dave and I talked about now that we've got a good bit of these done, we really need to consider paving assessment, a reevaluation. Now that we're 8 years into this, where do we group the next 10 years we're going to pave? I think we're at that point.
We do some each year, right?
Yeah, we do still intend to have some paving done in the coming budget year, right?
Yes.
Dave, you a priority list?
We do have a list.
Okay, priority.
I mean, from where we were to where we are now,
We've come a long way.
And I think since we have some of those reporters here, one key thing for us, I think we're over 50 roads, including what DOT has paved total within our town footprint in the last 6 years, 5 years.
We have that updated sheet from
And
Sheriff
so, I
County.
mean, it has been
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
extensive. One of the things we do want to share, and maybe Miles or Vernon can reach out to us on this, we're trying to get a more user-friendly map that we can push to show paved, not paved. We've got versions, but you gotta think about, it's a big document.
Oh, yeah.
But the last couple of months have taught us anything, paving and parks make people happy.
Yes.
Mayor, I would just echo Pat Ruther's comments that we do need some crosswalks. If we can do some architecturally aesthetic ones, like a brick crosswalk across
what you're
that
talking about.
I think we all think we need it.
I want them to be seen, I mean,
Spots.
even if we have to pay for it.
yeah.
Well, that was my question, and I think all of us have that question, Corey. If we make these recommendations to them and they come back and say, hey, we've done all we're gonna do, what is the process then? Can we go back, can we find money and then go back to them and say, hey, we know it's your street, but we'd like to do this?
Yes, the only other example we've had similar to this where we've asked for something beyond what is what they're going to do, was when we added the stop sign that has the lights on the 100 block of MLK. There's an encroachment agreement that we would work with them, that would be at our cost. Of course, anything would need their blessing as far as signing off on the agreement, and I'm sure they're not going to want to cut new asphalt. We're not big fans of that, but that is a conversation we could have with them about the next steps, and I'm sure if we pay for it, they would be okay with us using their preferred vendors. This is how it would be installed, this is what it would look like. So, I mean, that is an option for some of the paving money to do something.
Well, let's encourage them to foot the bill to do it and foot the bill
Before they go on another job.
But I've seen crosswalks are painted beautiful. It doesn't have to be real brick and all that, but,
But the bricks
So much
are
better.
good.
oh, it does, yeah, but I don't know if they want to rip up concrete.
Corey, whatever we
I don't think they
decide,
want to rip it up.
we would have to do that encroachment agreement, and they would inspection, their inspector will be there, to see it
Yeah,
all the way through.
understood.
Well, we just got to get a rod and tell them they got to get it broke.
Yeah.
They don't want crosswalk, not
Yeah.
crosswalk.
Well, it just seems
Everywhere
like
else, we need to get it.
a well-organized company, Fred Smith Paving, they seem to be, know what they're doing now. From my viewpoint, you all agree?
Yeah, they're doing an outstanding
What do you
job.
think, David?
I think they did an outstanding job. Like I said, like Corey said, they still have to wait for the encroachment for the railroad. We're hoping within 30 days we'll pay Bramble. So that's what we're hoping.
That's really nice.
Yeah. Okay, any more items?
Just vehicle, electric power station back here, is that?
So we finally have what we need set up with NextGrid as well as Logix for remoting in for what they need for their software. So,
In the next 30 days?
yeah, I hope so. We already have an active account. It's already physically been installed. It's a matter of now the software working. We have been working on it the last 2 weeks. They've got everything they need to log in. We will make a huge announcement for these when the software works, so we can start monitoring. If it plugs in, it has to be metered. And so that's what we've got to have here for the county.
I have a question, what do we look like for, I guess, the redevelopment process part down here? What's that look like?
For the colonial park, I mean, there's an initial site plan. I haven't had any further discussions with folks from all the towns other than, have there been any updates on the site plan itself? Has anything changed? What you've seen a year and a half ago is still what's there. As far as the town's initiative to start on renovating something here, it would definitely happen after the other parks are completed. If we do anything on our own.
When can we expect some sort of in-person status?
We may not have time to get into Harbor Town.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be here all night.
No, I'm just saying, when can we expect that?
We can reach out to them and see if we can get them back in there.
Have they moved in?
I would suggest,
They do have some stuff there. and-
Have those signs.
I would suggest to them that this council needs to hear from
Yes.
And they got a one-year lease, right?
Yes.
them. Okay,
Second.
all right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So good.
All right, we don't have Elton here. Elton here. You got a second, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, folks.